Probably the first day of school or the first week when I came and I met the guys that I'm friends with today and hopefully will be friends with throughout my entire life. When Coach Buckles, he had separated the class into our nationalities, and he, I guess he was surprised that I was the only one that was not from the U.S., and that's just what we base our connection off.
And Max Jelton and I were the only two kids dumb enough to wear black sweaters in 90-degree heat in August of Texas. That is the only reason I met Max that day, and that's the only reason that he's one of the closest friends I have now. It's probably the only reason he'll be one of the closest friends I have for my entire life. Just because we're the two stupid kids who wore sweaters, almost got heat stroke on the first day of this school's existence.
Me and Bella in 7th grade, I think it was the first time we ever hung out together, and we went to go get our nails done. And I remember at the nail salon, they came up to Bella and they asked her if she wanted like wine or mimosa, and then they looked at me and they were like, "You want a juice box?" Okay, this one is from we went to Austin in 7th grade, and I remember we were sitting outside. Like the buses, first of all, were just school buses, so they weren't air conditioned, but it was boiling outside. And we were just sitting out there for a solid like 2.5 hours because Mr. Peebles hadn't planned anything for the first 2 hours when we got there. It was great.
And that was about a week after I'd gotten to Imagine in 7th grade. And what I've heard is Imagine was pretty good at planning out trips until we got there and we sat out in the sun for 3.5 hours. I got to meet incredibly close friends of mine that I'm going to be graduating with, and I will be able to have those bonds still when I'm in college.
When Mr. Cooks called Jackson a racist, that was by far my favorite moment. Like in the middle of class, it was early in the morning, no one was awake yet, and then he reads through Jackson's paper about Robert E. Lee and how it was his hero, and he goes like this, "Well, now we know that Jackson's a racist."
I would say my favorite memory is Heifer Ranch. Because we really got to fend for ourselves as a class and steal food from each other and cut each other with spoons. But it was really a very bonding experience.
My favorite moment is right before we left the camp. We all stayed up till 4 a.m. just not knowing what to do, so we just started singing at the top of our lungs.
My favorite memory has to be when we went to Six Flags and it was Physics Day and there was no lines, so I went on the Texas Titan 5 times in a row, and me and Kira and I almost beat.
Freshman years, we would write down stupid things that was said in class. I know this was especially true during geometry and physics, but we just write it down in our notebook, and we came up with a collection of it, and then it kind of evolved with the fact board. I think it was in Miss Anina's classroom, like a random fact every day that someone wrote down. And then so we kind of merged those two together. So in Miss G's room, at the back of the board, we just write down stuff that people said, and we just let it stay there for the entire quarter and the entire semester.
For junior year, every day during lunch, me and my friends played cards, and it was a nice way to relieve stress.
So it was a couple years ago. All the art kids were on a field trip and we were in one of those vans and we were on the highway and we realized that the door was open. So basically we're all having a panic attack and Sophia's right there next to the door and she's equally freaking out and we're like, just close it. She's like, I have to open it to close it. We're still on the highway, we're still driving, and all of a sudden Sophia just like grabs the door, yanks it out and shuts it so fast. All of us were freaking out. It was probably the scariest moment of DP ever. We all thought we were gonna die.
One thing that I really did enjoy was filming with Bailey a brownie commercial that really didn't have anything to do with brownies. And that was the start of Bailey and our films together.
Going salsa dancing with the whole grade, and I'm also looking forward to going again this year.
My favorite moment was the Capture the Flag tournament, and each of the grades competed against one another. And my favorite moment was whenever we were all about to play a match, and every single time we would get together and do our chant. And it just made me feel so connected with my grade and with everybody.
At the end of the year, NYP and DP students get to do a sponge fight in the field. And last year, well, the class of 2018 were juniors,
we did the sponge fight with the whole school, and then we actually went to the back of the school and had a second sponge fight, and it was so much fun. So that's my favorite memory.
Last summer of 2017, I got to go to Europe with a lot of my schoolmates. I went with Caroline and Leo and then other children. It was Trova. And we got to go to France and Spain and Italy. And so many interesting events happened, some fun things. You know, I got my wallet stolen. It's a fun time.
Going to Europe with Leo and Siani and Miss Trova, and it was just an overall amazing experience.
I'd say like many like Christmas parties and stuff like that. Spending time together outside of school and not like talking about school or stressing, because it's nice to see everyone.
My favorite memory is when Mr. Michael Ford told me that the way to get into any Ivy League is to simply walk through the door and say, I'm gonna pay, give me a spot.
Okay, so my favorite memory has been that after all the volleyball games, Sarah and I would be driving home, and every single time Sarah would belt out the rap of Lemonade Mouth to Terminate word for word perfectly after every single game.
My favorite moment this year was when we were in econ class and we were reading this paper, and Andy was assigned to read, and she kept on saying economists instead of economists, and Miss Presley had to correct her around 200 times.
My favorite moment from my 6 years at Imagine would have to be the PYP Sweetheart Dance this past year, because prom committee was able to have a fun experience while dancing with the PYP kids and also raise money for our prom this year.
A lot of my favorite memories were made when we were either out on the soccer field or we were out playing Nine Square or playing ERS. Like, they're all kind of stupid games, but lots of fun times in all of them.
Eddie lost control during a game of ERS.
Oh.
And he was never the same again.
That one we won't be speaking of.
My favorite memory over the past 2 years would probably be our Disney senior spring break trip. And my favorite memory specifically from that would be our late movie night where we watched Titanic and just drove around all night.
Probably going to Disney with the class, specifically the fireworks show at Magic Kingdom the first time. The second time was good with the proposal and all, but the first time I think was the most emotionally changing for me.
My favorite memory over the DP 2 years was one night when we were editing for our final film. We were editing basically until 3 in the morning, and the film group kind of worked together to help me stay awake.
My favorite memory is putting together the senior videos, just because I get to hear everyone else's perspective on the last 6 years. And since I'm such close friends with them, being able to hear their responses and all of their favorite memories has made me remember a lot of things that I forgot.